Canada's new Minister of Heritage and Multiculturalism has a long road ahead. Pablo Rodriguez took over the portfolio just last month. His appointment comes as the government is looking to modernize the Broadcast and Telecommunications Acts. Minister Rodriguez joins us in studio this morning. Good to have you here.
Great to be here.
And in person. Listen, we know big changes are needed to these acts. The laws that we're working with right now predate the internet.
Yep.
I think what most people want to know is how is what I'm going to change, or how is what I'm watching going to change? How much will it cost me? And how will I access it?
Well, it's a very good question, actually. And you said it. All the laws we're working are before the internet. So that's where we put in place committees that are actually analyzing this. Everything changes super fast. I was a critic of this portfolio 6-7 years ago. I came back now as a minister, and I mean, it's all completely different. So we're following this very, very closely.
It's easy to be a critic of the portfolio now that it's yours.
Yeah.
What are you going to have to tackle first?
Well, first of all, I need to learn the file very well, right? And I need to meet stakeholders. So that's why I'm here in Toronto for a couple of days. By the way, when it rains in your city, it rains. Eh?
When it rains, it pours.
Yes.
This is true.
And so I've been meeting people, creators, artists. I did that yesterday, and we're doing it also today to understand the challenges, their needs, their objectives, and see how the government of Canada can be a partner, how we can help them.
Big concern here is for creative producers because they want to be able to create Canadian content for Canadians. But listen, we're in a global world now. You know, I watch shows that are made in other countries. Canadian producers want to be able to do this.
Well, we're good. We're extremely good at creating. We're extremely good also at exporting. In many cases, we export more cultural content than we're importing, actually, at this moment. So we're among the best. And our job, actually, is simple, is to let them create, make sure that they have the tools that they need to do what they do best, which is create, produce, and whenever possible, export also.
I think the criticism sometimes from producers, they have felt like maybe their product wasn't worth the investment by the Canadian government.
Well, no, I mean, we're trying to invest whenever it's possible. We have to look at what's feasible, but we're there. I mean, we're very proud. And it's all about who we are also, right? The departments, right, for heritage is about who we are as Canadians. And that's why we're there to support our film industry, our music. And I always say, try to go through one day without music, without television, without movies. It would be impossible. So we're there as a department to support them because that changes our lives.
Yeah, the portfolio you mentioned that you're just getting familiar with is a big one. Arts, culture, heritage represent $53.8 billion in our Canadian economy, 650,000 jobs. Technology is rapidly changing. Look, I work in television and I know how much it's changed in the last 10 years. Netflix has been a huge game changer. What ways can Canada stay competitive in this ever-emerging market?
Well, that's a very good question. And we have to see how we can adapt the laws to the new context, right? And as you said, everything changes. I look at my daughter, she's 17 years old. The way she listens to music, I was watching the guest right before me. I mean, they're streaming all the time, right? So that changes. It's a game changer. The way we look at movies and this and that. So we're trying to adapt the laws, the context, to take that into consideration.
You know, I want to talk about some of the previous work that you've done in government as you get familiar with this new portfolio. You'll know this recent Angus Reid poll that found 67% of Canadians feel like right now at our borders there is a crisis situation. Last fall, you were part of a delegation that went down to the U.S. to talk to communities who were thinking of possibly emigrating to Canada. You know, and at that time you said, we have laws, they need to be respected. You know, obviously with this Angus Reid poll coming out, Canadians feel that it has reached a crisis point. That message is not getting through. So what do we need to say to these communities?
It's a challenge. I wouldn't call it a crisis, it's a challenge. But also we have to understand that we've been very proactive. You said it, but I went there 8 times. Why? Because my mother tongue is Spanish, so I went to the States and I spoke to the Latino community directly on television. I spoke to them, to millions of people actually directly. And it did have an impact. We did the same thing with the Asian community. So you see the numbers going down for those communities.
But all the numbers I am seeing about irregular border crossers
are they're going down. They've been going down recently, and the country's changed. So the countries that we've been addressing to, for example, the Latino community in the States, we don't see that increase. There's no increase at all. Actually, it's going down.
Does the message need to be stronger?
Well, the message has to be repeated maybe more, because there are laws, there are rules, and if you want to come here, fine, but you have to respect those rules. On the other side, we also have obligations at the international levels. We're bound by international treaties and conventions, but one thing is clear, we have our laws and they have to be respected.
Minister, you are not the only minister who was charged with this task of going down and reiterating, clarifying our immigration laws. But when the Prime Minister, sends out a tweet that he did in January saying diversity is our strength and Canada is open and welcome, does that make that job difficult when the Prime Minister is saying one thing and the ministers are tasked with saying something else?
We are an open country, but it's because we have a robust immigration system that we can be that open country. So we have to make sure that with people that when they come in, they respect their laws and their rules, and they have to be able to demonstrate. It's, for example, political refugees. When my dad was in prison, he was tortured in Argentina, our house was bombed. When we came in, we have all the proofs, we had the papers, we had everything that would demonstrate that we were refugees and we needed the protection of the country, and we got it. Mm-hmm. So whenever somebody comes here and asks for that kind of protection, we have to be able to demonstrate that.
It is stories like yours that add to multiculturalism, which is part of the portfolio that you represent now.
It's part of who we are.
Thanks for coming in this morning.
Thank you.